I'm Alex Marciniszyn. I'm the editor of Palladium Books. I've been here since the beginning.
One of my questions is, when did Palladium start to really take off?
When we got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle license and the Robotech license, both of those brought us to the attention of a much wider audience than the usual role players.
Was that the same year?
No. I think it was a few years apart, and it got us into comic book stores. And at that time, we were advertising in Marvel Comics for the Robotech RPG. And at that time, we were growing very rapidly. By the end of 1980s, we were a $2.1 million company. We had also gotten the rights to re-release Southern Cross and Speeda, Robotech Southern Cross and Robotech New Generation on VHS tape, and that also helped tremendously. So the 80s, between 81 and 89, was a fantastic period of growth for the company.
Excellent. I remember those Robotech advertisements in Marvel Comics, the full-colored Kevin Long painting, or drawing.
Of the Veritech.
Yes, very
right.
beautiful.
We also advertised in Dragon Magazine, which was another fantastic opportunity to reach people, and that also did well for us, very well.
Were you a Robotech fan at all?
One of our employees brought in a Japanese book called Macross, Memory. And prior to that, I thought that Japanese science fiction was pretty primitive. When I flipped through Perfect Memory, I was instantly hooked. I thought the designs were incredible. They even seemed plausible, as if they could be built. And I immediately became a Robotech fan. So did Kevin. And
what year was that?
Gosh, I want to say around 1985. I'm not certain of the exact year. And myself, I began collecting as much information I could about the various 3 Japanese TV shows that made up Robotech, Macross being the biggest, Southern Cross, and Genesis Clamor Speeda. And I began cultivating resources to get the model kits and to get Japanese language books that contain art and further information.
Me too. So, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about the history of Palladium, or Rifts, or anything like that?
Well, in a previous conversation I had with you, I pointed out that in the late 1970s, Kevin was working at an art supply store. He met Julius Rosenstein, who still works for us, who introduced him to role-playing, and after that, Kevin joined a group at Wayne State University called the Wayne Weregamers, and he role-played there. And then, along with Eric Wojcik and Matt Ballant, there was the Detroit Gaming Center, which was near the Wayne State campus. And it was at that time that Kevin really took off as a game master, and people encouraged him to produce his own games. And he had plenty of ideas. So by 1981, he decided to release the Mechanoids. The first book was comic book size, along with the following 2 books. And they were well received. Matt Ballant had produced an 8.5 by 11 booklet folded in half called Weapons. Kevin turned that into a comic book size resource, the first one being Weapons and Armor, followed by Weapons and Castles.
Did Matt Ballant do the illustrations for the weapons?
Yes, he did.
I was wondering who did that. Excellent.
Right. And those sold extremely well. So Kevin understood the market. He knew how to tap into it. And, along with the licenses, Robotech and TMNT, we did very well between 81 and 89. Moving into the 90s, things began to change somewhat. The appearance of the Magic the Gathering card game meant that some younger people who might have gotten involved in role-playing, not just our own games, but other role-playing games, decided to stick with cards. and did not get into the role-playing game market. Kevin saw that as being a potential problem, and around the year 2000, it did become a problem for other game companies who were surprised, thinking that, well, things are going to remain the way they were in the early 90s before Magic. After Magic, however, the market did change, and people who might have gotten into role-playing did not get into it. So plans were made to deal with that eventuality, and but other events, negative events, intervened to prevent us from doing certain things we wanted to do.